is mainly just adjusting your lesson plans, if you will, to meet the needs of all the students. I actually teach 3 co-taught classes, so I have to adjust all the time. I don't really have too many different assignments, but I may adjust it to what needs to be done for a lot of the students. And also I incorporate a lot of PowerPoint, videos. I also incorporate these assignments called one-pagers, where they actually have to be creative and make a poster of a topic. So I try to incorporate all different aspects of it to at least help the students learn different ways. And I notice that it does help with the scores, but at the same time, it's hard to judge or score that and look at your data. But that's what I do, and that's what my district kind of looks at it as. So.
Okay. So you kind of covered how would you define it and then how you've implemented it in your classroom, kind of all in one. So does anyone else have a different definition or a way that you are incorporating differentiated instruction into your classroom?
Well, I teach kindergarten, and coming into the year, you have kids that can read books on their own, and then kids in my district, we have a lot of migrant families from Mexico who they'll come in without speaking any English at all. So I have a pretty wide range of kids, and so differentiating, I guess, for me in my classroom and in my district is really focused on center rotations often that kind of allow me to meet with small groups of students, just because knowing, the needs of each kid. Some kids are real high in things, and some kids just need the extra one-on-one time or two-on-one. And so, yeah, just kind of like what Curtis was saying, just figuring out what each student needs or grouping small groups of similar needs, and then deciding from there, what I can do and what I can create for them. So.
Okay. Anyone else?
I always find just as many different ways as I can teach something is, are always really helpful. I teach history and language arts, so just presenting the same material in multiple ways, and whether it's a video or me talking through something or having the class discuss it, just if you can present something in a number of different ways, they learn it a lot better. So everything I do, I'm always kind of rewording it or representing it with different types of assignments, and I've found it's usually pretty successful.
That's pretty similar for me. With my online classroom, it's easier because I can post a video and I can post, Pearson Realize activity and the textbook activities, and PowerPoints. I do a lot of PowerPoints or fill-in-the-blank notes. So kids can kind of choose that way when how they'd like to learn it or what they'd like to do. And then with instruction sometimes or assignments, I'll just differentiate if I can tell a kid is missing it or not quite where he needs to be. We can adjust assignments using our online assignment maker, like in My Math Lab or Math Excel, fairly easily. And the nice thing about being online is it's not an issue of other kids noticing they got a different assignment or, due dates can be changed easily and reworked. And so I found I have a lot easier time differentiating now that I'm online than when I did in the brick and mortar.
Stupid mute button. I'm sorry. That was my bad. Okay, so Caitlin typed in the chat box. It should be somewhere on your computer that you can click on that. Yeah, and I think you've summarized really well in your statement. Meeting the kids where they're at and focusing on where they need to go, I think, is something that all of you have kind of been talking about. giving them a wide range of experiences, giving them a wide range of ways to express what they do know, and all of that can really tie back into what the formal definition of being having differentiated instruction is. Does anyone know why we do differentiate besides just being a great teaching strategy? We're legally mandated to do it from the IDEA laws with the special ed primarily. You're required to differentiate instruction for students that have legal documentation of their disabilities, the 504 plan and IEP, a gifted IEP. You're legally mandated to differentiate your instruction for them to the best of the environment that they're able to, the least restrictive environment that they're able to be in. But honestly, good teachers do this all the time without even thinking about it. You know, okay, these kids are working on this, you work ahead. How about Johnny and Susie, you pair over here, and you're going to work on these two together, and just kind of reworking your assignments, or as some of you said, eliminating some of the problems, giving some of them extra ones. Something that's interesting that we were just talking about in one of the meetings that I had to go to here was called the St. Cloud model of co-teaching. And they were really looking at it from a student-teacher standpoint, but they had 7 strategies that they were talking about with how to divide the classroom up and do coherent parallel instruction. That's how they said it, parallel instruction with the same topic and the same things, but meeting the students' needs in different ways with that. If I can find the handout for that, I'll put it up. That if you guys are interested, you could take a look at that. But I thought that the strategies that they had with that would work really well with a co-taught classroom, because I did co-taught chemistry for the last 5 years that I taught in high school. So I've done a lot of co-teaching with that, as well as with student teachers coming in. And some of you, I'm sure, have aides or other co-teachers coming into your classroom, hopefully, to help you out a little bit if you have a lot of special needs students. For example, Elizabeth, with all of your second language learners, do you have any help with that, or do you have to handle that all on your own?
I don't have any push-in help. The students are pulled out 2 different times of the day during math and during reading. So when they're with me, I mean, luckily in kindergarten, they learned so quickly that my students that didn't speak English in the beginning of the year speak fluent English now, but not necessarily push-in help, but there are ELL teachers and paras that help in a separate classroom. But I do have a student who's cognitively impaired who gets a para coming in for 20 minutes during her math time. So, yeah.
Well, some help is better than no help.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Okay. Does anyone else have anything to add to the first 2 kind of questions that were posted? You know, thinking about how you wanted to define differentiated instruction, or okay. And Caitlin does have a message. She says, Newsela is a great source for current events. You can choose differing Lexile levels, which helps differentiate when you don't have a co-teacher. Okay, I'm writing that down too, because I have my old co-teacher just emailed me last night. I got one from the conversation about gaming. I wrote down somewhere else, but it was a math kind of, yes, the Minecraft, not Minecraft, but the other one. There was one that does math in a Minecraft-like environment that people had mentioned last night, but I wrote it down. It's in my notebook on the other side of the room. So that's pretty great. Thank you. I'm really appreciative of getting resources from you guys too. Guess what the class next semester is going to have? Everybody's going to have to read about these things now too. All right. So the third question I have then is, what technologies have you used to support this? Or are there other ones that you think would be beneficial if you had the time or the access or anything like that? Just to tie that to the kind of framework of the class on using instructional multimedia or instructional technologies of any kind that you've been able to use or you'd like to use if you had the opportunity. Okay, go ahead.
I just got a class set of Chromebooks as a pilot for our district. So this is brand new. I just got them this week. So I've been having a lot of fun exploring using those. And I have everything set up in Google Classroom. I've already done some collaborative assignments, and I found that differentiating my instruction has been a lot easier in the future as I'm planning way ahead now that I have these Chromebooks to, be able to have a spot for all the students to go to for the materials and to have more creative and open assignments. So that's something that I've been really excited about, and it's something I think will help quite a bit with differentiating my content.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else care to add to the conversation?
Like I mentioned, we use Pearson for our math curriculum, which is purchased, and I'm sure it's not cheap, but that's great in and of itself. But I also really like Khan Academy because I know I can set up a classroom with them, and I haven't explored that yet where I can actually track what the students watch. But it's easy to just assign, in a quick email, I see you're struggling with Pythagorean theorem, and copy and paste it in an email. And it gives them practice problems, videos. I think the videos are really easy to watch and relatable. I like them. So that's one of the resources I like for just supplemental instruction when kids need that.
In my blog post, I mentioned that our district has a technology grant where each student has an iPad that they're given. So all of my students have iPads that they use at school and then also at home. So the district has done a lot of research on different apps and websites that teachers can differentiate. We use IXL for math, and then we use Extra Math. Those are two apps that I can go on and program students' independent levels. And then for reading, we use RazKids, which is a paid subscription, but I think individuals can get that as well. And then Epic is another program or an app that students use that I can, kind of give them like a book box essentially that they can read from. So, iPads make it really easy to use apps and to differentiate, based on different levels. And we use, our standardized tests to determine those. But in my district, that's basically the highlight of our technology is these iPads. So
now I'm hearing all of you say different ways that you're differentiating your instruction. What do you think is the biggest drawback to differentiating the instruction? Not a question I posted.
It can take a lot of time on the teacher's half.
Yeah. Yeah, Caitlin set out so much time as well.
And I think too, keeping the data accurate for me has been, if I have a level for a student, like they might be that level this week, but then they might make some great gains, and then those books aren't hard enough, or, that math isn't hard enough. So just having valid scores and data to use for that and keeping consistent with that too.
And I know it kind of has to do with time, but just deadlines too, and having such small windows to teach units and subjects. It's just on top of how much time it takes to plan lessons with lots of differentiated instruction. There's also just those walls that are coming that you need to make sure that you're fitting everything in before that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that the time factor is something that every teacher knows, but every administrator thinks that you blow way out of proportion, and that people outside of the school district don't even have any clue what it means. They don't understand the amount of time that it takes to build a good lesson and then to tweak it 6 different ways for your 6 different needs, and to just find the technologies that are required to supplement it and support it, I think can be kind of crazy. And Elizabeth, I don't know how you do it with 15 different products, because I'll tell you what, whenever I was doing it, finding one thing that even worked at all with the kids that I had was craziness, just trying to keep track of it all. Something I saw that it was a French teacher that did in a district that I did some training with. One way that they differentiated it was requiring the students they had a checklist at the beginning of every 9 weeks. And this almost ties back to the creativity discussion we had last night. it had all kinds of different ways that you could express your learning. And they had so many points per 9 weeks that were required. And these were for some of their major assignments, and some of them were for the products that they had to produce. Some of them were write a paper, create a poster, do a PowerPoint. And some of them were other things like find 10 pictures that illustrate this concept and annotate them with whatever. So they had a lot of different things like that, but they used that every 9 weeks. And the students had a set number that they had to use every time. And so that gave them a way to differentiate the products that students were producing to kind of their levels at times without having to reinvent the wheel. But I think when you have a lot of very broad constraints, as some of you have mentioned, that sometimes that's just not even going to work either. You have to be able to really dial it back and dial it down. There's another, what's it? Another product I used last year is called Curriculet, Cirriculet. It's free, and it's kind of like the video ones we're going to be doing in week 7 with evaluation, where you can take a document and you can embed questions in it, and it'll gather all your data for you. But you can upload PDFs for free, and you create your classroom. Your students can go through there. But what was nice with that was we were able, with the CoTaught classroom, to set up a couple classrooms in each classroom to use, as you were saying, that Newsela that has different levels of reading in that. We were able to give everyone an article that looked the same in the Curriculet, and then embed the questions that we wanted them to answer, or quiz questions or whatever, to keep them reading and focused on what they were supposed to do. And it has a lot of nice features too. So that's something that I don't know if it'll work in your instances, but because it is free and because you can upload any PDF you want, besides they have some books that are available for free that are out of copyright or older or whatever, that are kind of standard texts. It's an interesting one to kind of check out too. And the people were really fantastic to work with. So they were really willing to tweak it. We were kind of beta testing with them. So that's something that I've seen that we were able to use to put out a couple different levels of reading ability to target, because my CoTaught class last year 2 years ago, was 18 kids in there, but 8 of them were cognitively impaired, and 8 of them were emotional support students who were actually pretty bright, but they just couldn't function in a regular classroom. So that made it really interesting with the dynamics in there. And that was one thing that we could give some of the kids really good reading stuff that was to their level and to their ability, and really make them think through it. And then we could give the other kids something that really targeted their strengths and allowed them to learn at least similar content at their level. So does anyone have any other comments about this? Anything else you want to share? Ooh, we're going to be done early. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to turn off the recorder, and because I'm capturing this, I have a couple people that are having major health and life crises, and we're trying to work something out, but at least they're listening to all these sessions, and even if they're not taking the points for it, because they want to be involved in some way.